6:37 from closed session, and no action was taken on our closed session items. With that, we'd like to do our official opening. Let me go back on the agenda here. Do the official opening. Let's see, I think that's right. Reconvene, official opening, Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone please stand. Right hand over heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion for the minutes from last meeting?
We move to approve the minute.
I second.
Any discussion about the minutes? Here, all those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 3-0 in favor. And now we move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Ramirez, the time is yours.
Thank you, Board President Sullivan. Pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm going to try to keep this report as brief and concise as possible, being as how we have a couple of other very important reports on information. First and foremost, just a couple of events that have transpired since our last board meeting. By no means is this an exhaustive list. I always have to preface that because we're a busy place. And there are a lot of things, great things that happen on a daily, weekly basis that bear their own attention. But with that said, I want to go ahead and move forward with just a quick recognition of our awards assemblies. You know, those are quarterly, trimester awards assemblies, and they just continue to be really great opportunities to highlight kids on a variety of fronts. We really care about acknowledging kids for all that they bring academically, socially, personally. And so I say that to you because they were really, really well attended, a lot of great energy and a lot of really phenomenal appreciation by students for other students as well, cheering on classmates and supporting them that way. They're also being recorded and they're on our YouTube channel. So that's something that we've done. And so if somebody missed it, you can certainly do that. Okay. So I just wanted to also acknowledge that today we had our toppers trip for our middle school kids. Those are always fun times, getting to know the kids a little outside of school. So very, very happy. It's always a real joy to participate with them. We also, this past Tuesday, had our middle school family showcase. This is an event that's been going on now for, I want to believe it's 3 years running. And this is our attempt to focus on students and families transitioning to 6th grade. In spite of the fact that we are a small community, TK through 8, we still wanted to acknowledge that it is a transition for families and for students to go from 5th grade to 6th. It's the start of middle school. It's not only a different end of the hallway, it's a different outfit entirely. Grades look different. Subject matter looks different. There's multiple teachers that they now have. And those are all things that for parents, it's also a milestone. And we want to make sure that we're preparing parents for everything that middle school is and everything that comes along with it. So we invited all of our families. We had well over 30 in attendance, great turnout. We also invited interested families. So families that are either already coming to us or are considering coming to us next year. And to that end, it's been very successful, very well regarded, and we just continue to improve upon it every year. I want to thank all of our teachers, all of our kids. It's kind of quietly turned out to be one of the highlights when kids talk to parents, families, and other students about their experiences in different aspects of middle school, typically 7th and 8th graders, but not exclusively, just to share what they've been through and what they found to be just the experience overall. I also want to thank Mr. Sullivan, who made it out for that event, and joined us for that evening.
Approximately how many families came and then, how many Mesa families versus potential new Mesa?
Yeah, we had over 30 families. I don't have an exact count. Those are the families that RSVP'd. And there were a handful of families who were outside of Mesa, probably a handful, 3 to 4. But the majority of them were our own families. And to me, that's great. That's great because we want to retain our families. Number one, want to make sure that they continue to see themselves in our school in Mesa and successfully transitioning to middle school. I can tell you anecdotally, the majority of those parents have multiple kids and are experiencing middle school for the very first time. So it is a very different point in their life as a family and obviously for the students individually. But yes, the majority of our families overwhelmingly were our district families. But to be honest with you, that's our audience because we want to help them get to the other side of Mesa and to that middle school experience with one eye now toward high school and beyond. All right, moving along. I wanted to highlight one piece, and that is that we did have a professional learning event, a professional learning day here last Friday. And the board is well aware that we have these days, set aside days. They're a very important part of what we do. And our families support us by, keeping their kids home, which isn't always an easy experience. But I can tell you that this particular day was very, very well received with some really great takeaways when it came to planning, learning, and advancing the goals and actions that we laid out. So what you have here is just kind of an overview. We continue to focus on writing in TK3. And in that particular instance, which was a morning block in the morning, teachers got to see student writing from across those different grade levels and communicate about what features they found the most important, the salient ones, and so on. So it was really great. That was facilitated by Mrs. Wagner and Mrs. Garza, and great participation from our teachers. In grades 4 through 8, we continue to advance our AVID implementation. We started to loop back on goal setting and organization, but also started to push ahead to inquiry, which is where we see also an opportunity to provide more rigor and more critical thinking to what we're doing. So that was in grades 4 through 8, considering that our 4th grade team just attended the conference in November. So we are slowly bringing them into the fold. So there's just a lot of great positivity and a lot of great takeaways, particularly in that morning block, but really throughout. All right, on the facilities front, I wanted to just make one item really the topic of conversation, and that is that the board, through our messaging, has received information about where things stand when it comes to our district well. Here's just a few pieces of information that are important to mention. Number one, we did receive a comprehensive report from Kier Groundwater. That was a great analysis. Great analysis. It provided us a lot of historical background, provided us some context and information as to why the current well may have failed, and what may be behind it, what efforts were made to remediate, and more importantly, or as importantly, what needs to be done about it now. And to cut to the chase, the idea is at this point that it affirms and confirms that there is a need to drill a replacement well. It does provide some broad specifications. We're expecting some additional specifications because we need to put this out to prospective contractors and drillers so that there is confidence in knowing what they're bidding on and what they're proposing be done in the coming weeks and months. So the next steps is a continuation of the emergency resolution. I'll be asking the board to support that resolution until such time that we have secured the services of a drilling contractor. Our next goal is to identify available contractors looking for contractors that can work in the near term and not delay this off any further. and then securing those proposals for board consideration and ultimately approval. So those are the big steps that are in front of us. But that comprehensive report, I feel, was done very, very well with some very, very specific information relative to what has been and what needs to be in the near future. Lastly, attendance. We rebounded a bit this past month. We had a tough time in December, rebounded a little bit. We're continuing to push for a 95% rate, and right now, general average is about 94.8. So we're trending appropriately, obviously, and for selfish reasons. I'd like to see us continue to improve upon that. That will continue to be our focal point. Right now, we are preparing the next round of attendance letters to notify families. We're trying to, we were just talking about that earlier this morning, to make individuals aware of where things stand at this current point in the time or in the year. And even during our awards assembly, we make it a point to highlight students that have had perfect attendance from that quarter or that trimester. And then lastly, just a few upcoming events, not an exhaustive list, but some important ones. We have our Tiger Cub Family Night coming up here on Thursday. That is kind of the TKK version of the middle school showcase. Great opportunity. We have well over 30 families already RSVP'd and more trickling in. We have our Mesa Jogathon on Friday, March 15th. And we also have our science fair for grade 7 and 8 on Friday, March 22nd. Spring break is right around the corner at this point, March 25th through the 5th, and then open house on the other side of spring break on April 24th. And with that, conclude my superintendent's report.
Thank you for that. Is there any questions that need to be put forth?
I guess my only is more of a comment, but I know that in our weekly reports, you dove into a little bit more about attendance. And so I guess I was surprised to see the percentage of kids that have missed or that would be considered chronic absentee, for the school. So I know that you guys are looking into it, but to the extent, is there a trend among those families? Is it very case by case? Is it something that we can work with people individually, but is it really more of working with a group of people, if it is more trendable?
We'd have to dig a little more into the numbers. As you can imagine or would expect, where there is absenteeism in one individual, if there are siblings, it tends to cut across the entire family. So that's a simple but important trend to acknowledge. We are, depending on the age, there is no time where it's okay to miss large segments of time. There is no grade that's more or less dispensable than the next. So we try to really reiterate that point now in a very concrete way with those individual families. The other thing that I can tell you is we have had instances where a lot is revealed through those conversations that allows us to understand better how to support those families or work with those individuals, whether it's things happening in the home, out in the community, maybe here at school, challenges with certain subject matters versus others. So it is helpful, no matter what, to have those discussions. In terms of trends, can't really speak to something that is consistent enough across student groups. And a lot of this has to do, I think in part, it's a function of proximity. We're just not a traditional neighborhood school. But with that said, it's really about stressing the importance of being here. It just really is. And at this point, we have put on the table any and all means by which to bring that about. And it's got some hard edges, perhaps on the one front, if we're looking at a revocation of an interdistrict or things of that nature. We hope it doesn't come to that. It's been very sparingly used, or I've used it very sparingly over the last couple of years. But in certain instances, maybe that is what's best. But ultimately, right now, we're just focusing on communicating and informing as we do throughout the year so that we can spend our time and effort with those families where we might need to come up with different plans or something more concrete with more actionable steps. We do know this, whenever we notify, there is a change in behavior. Whenever we notify, there is an uptick. The challenge is sustaining it. The challenge is developing that into patterns that can be more predictable as the year concludes.
If I could, on those lines, it was 2 meetings ago by the VCCBSA, where they talked about chronic absenteeism was the catalyst for, across the board that led to people going to alternative schools. And, it starts here. And if it's something that we can address now, it'll help them in their high school career and being able to help them to graduate in a meaningful way. So that likewise, chronic absenteeism means that they're also getting behind the school year. I'm not telling you anything new, but besides how it's impacting them today, it's going to impact them for years to come, to set these kind of habits. And so if we could correct those up front, maybe, focalizing those with parents, that might be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah, the impact of chronic absenteeism is significant.
Yeah.
And the challenge is relaying it in a way that feels graspable. And let me tell you what I mean. If you're talking about a 3rd grade student, the road from 3rd grade to 9th grade for a parent that's going through it, I mean, it just feels like forever. The issue is that those habits become internalized. And now it's not just an academic issue, it becomes a social issue, or it can splinter off into other parts of who they are. So to that end, we have a phenomenal set of staff that are working specifically in the social emotional counseling side of things here at Mesa, and that have formed a really phenomenal team. So we have developed social skills groups whenever those kinds of things start to come up, to group kids together, to help them learn from each other, to help them support one another. And we're just trying this on multiple fronts, on the academic front, on the relationship with parents, and also on the social front to help them peer-to-peer support each other. So, we continue to think about a lot of solutions, and ultimately it's going to be about chipping away at the problem. And wherever information might be just enough, we want to do that. Sometimes people don't understand how attendance is calculated or the numbers of days that are missed. It can be easy to miss no matter how much we try to communicate. So right now we're just trying to do everything possible. And I will also say this, because oftentimes, understandably, that gets a lot of our attention. But at our awards assemblies, we have scores of kids that have perfect attendance. And so we want to really highlight them, because it's a personal commitment, of course, but it's a family commitment as well. And so we want to also prop them up to be able to share that it is possible, and that we have kids, quite a few of them, in fact, that are here on a regular, everyday, consistent basis. And I think that's the other piece that I just want to highlight here as well.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing nothing else, let's move on to board members' reports and communications. We received correspondence from the VCOE that they received our first interim report for Golden Valley. Are there any other reports and communications? Comments or concerns? Anything else? Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a, oh, coming back. Interest and concern.
I was just wondering if the school had any plans for. The lands on school days.
Yes, I'm actively gathering information. And I know that you may also have some thoughts around that, especially because I know you've been very reliably one of our resident experts around that time of year. So I know Ms. Belaine did share with me that she's very open to your ideas and support.
No matter what, I keep on. Right. But if we decided to do something at this slide as well,
Thank you.
First step. Consent agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'd like to adopt.
Is there a second? Discussion.
Specifically with the check register, there just seems to be difference of the number of checks for the cafeteria fund. And so, the page 2 of 3.
Right, there's a discrepancy of two noted, where on one side of the ledger it says 73, and in the other combined 6 and 15 is 75.
Correct. And so I didn't know if we knew of, if I don't know if like 2 checks were written, but then they were canceled, or if, but just, I knew that those 2 numbers did not equal each other.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, unless Ms. Peterson can readily answer that one, it might require a little bit more background for us. So it is something that we're noting.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, Mrs. Dryden, because I know that this time of year, our enrollment, we're living in two years, current year and next year, already planning for next. So our current enrollment is stated there as 577. I know of great interest to the board, and always is, and always has been, is what our projected enrollment is, particularly in TKK for the following year. It still remains our goal to look at 80 students, bringing in 80. So what I can report to you is that right now we've got, assuming, and it is part of our assumption, that 32 TK roll into K. We do have an additional 17 that have been approved, intra-district transfers, and 4 in-district enrollments. So those are slowly but surely growing and coming in. We are, knock on wood, a little bit ahead of last year's pace as I looked at those numbers. You know, it's always good to be ahead of that curve, but not necessarily indicative of much. But that's where we stand at the moment. Our goal should still be 80 to be just for where we need to be enrollment wise. But right now to date, 32 TK that we expect to become K, and another 17 combination TKK inter-district, and 3, most likely 4 that are coming in that are in-district students.
And we have a lot of people coming on Thursday for our.
Yes,
as well.
yes. And just so you know, we have our front office, Brianna, Jelana, Leticia have been fantastic in noting information, and Miss Kuklinski, who is our resident tour expert. She is the one that hosts those tours, gets to know those families, you know, first. And so we have an ongoing list of families who have attended a school tour in any grade, and those that have called and expressed interest or are working on securing their inter-district application. So I don't want to, those are not factored into this, into these numbers. These are individuals and families who have already submitted and in our instance have been approved for an inter-district.
And then my only other comment on consent items is I just noticed we have a lot, or what I think is a lot surplus in our cafeteria fund for the amount of food where we budget for a certain amount and what we're spending. And so, you know, over halfway through the year, I was looking at the percentage of how much we spent and I said, ooh, we should be higher. And I know that that's one of the kids' comments always is about, food quality and how example them going to Rita Pally and everything's being made fresh and they love it. We clearly have money in this budget. And so I don't know if that's something that we can continue to look at, but these funds are also like use them or lose them kinds of situations. And so I think it makes sense if it can only be spent in the cafeteria that we try to upgrade, the potential menu.
Thank you. And yes, we will make every effort to do so.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting the agenda with the one addition that that one check register item will be cleared up, and say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0. We'd like to welcome Dr. Canby in being here. Information, we now have a board presentation regarding the mid-year update on LCAP.
So thank you once again, board. I want to just go through this as briskly because I know we have a couple of other times. And just know that this is a mid-year report that we have now carried over 3 years consecutively. The first year was statutory. The second year was not. We did it anyway. And now it's back to being a statutory requirement. It's informational. The vote does not need to take any action upon this, but here we go. So first and foremost, all of this information is a high-level summary. It's intended to be just a snapshot. But let me go ahead and focus our attention on who we should be centered on. And that is the students there on the left. Those student groups are low-income students who qualify who are identified as low income, are emergent multilingual or English learners, are foster homeless, and are students with special needs, amongst others, but primarily these are the focal point. What I want to do is just go through each one of these slides with a high-level recap and overview of where we are in each one of those areas. There's a lot to unpack, and there's an accompanying report that you can certainly continue to review that provides a little more information on that based on each action. But in goal 1, it is to ensure high academic achievement through rigorous student-centered learning experiences. We have moved ahead with an implementation of AVID, which I'm very impressed by. Our teachers have really taken it to heart. They've been phenomenal in collaborating with one another in trying to really move ahead briskly. They really started with things that were important, that they were noticing, these quote unquote soft skills that kids were not necessarily demonstrating: organization, note-taking. But we now know through these last several months that they're imperative, that we know that these great students that we want to take on to high school and beyond need those skills, especially now. It's how to synthesize information. So we started with these very straightforward practical goals that have now really unfolded into things that are much more than that. But either way, 5 through 8 has done a phenomenal job. I spoke to that earlier. We have an early onboarding of grade 4. They've been a part of those meetings and are learning alongside their colleagues, with an expansion expected into grade 3 in this coming school year. Can you go back just one? Our early childhood education and learning support, we continue to staff our learning support team, and specifically our learning support specialist, who has been working phenomenally with grades TK, K1, and 2. And it's been phenomenal to have them continued. And I have some data sets to show you in a minute that I think speak to that. We are looking to revamp and been looking to revamp our full steam ahead after school programming. We have established some, first of all, we hired a a position, a certificated position, who sits at the helm of that. She and I meet weekly, Ms. Sarah Hokamp, and really what we're trying to accomplish is really making an extension of learning that happens during the day. It's looking different for our lower grade than our middle school. Middle school, we're going to have to really rethink. There are so many challenges scheduling wise to maintaining coherence with our middle school students, whether it's athletic events, clubs, activities, the list goes on, that make time with them coherently a challenge. How that happens, I'm not quite sure. We're having some honest conversations about how that can happen, but we just know it to be true. And but in the lower grades, in K1, 2, 3, we have really redesigned that time, and it really is serving as an extension of what's happening in the day program, which is benefiting our kids tremendously. And then another thing is that we are fully implementing our new science materials in grades 6, 7th, and 8th. And that, I think, is a great opportunity to extend learning in already what was a very important source of strength for us, which is our science program. The other thing that I want to just highlight here is that we have also moved ahead with 5 teachers participating in a statewide field test of science materials for elementary. And those folks are very excited. I commend them for that effort. And I think it's going to be a really impactful next step for us as we move ahead. In goal 2, we have been maintaining collaborative culture of meaningful partnerships. We've onboarded a number of partnerships. Ventura County Credit Union, we've started to launch financial literacy, hope to expand that. Our VCOE partners and TUPE have been incredible when it comes to substance use, more information coming to students there. And Workforce Development Board, which is just now starting a partnership with us by way of some career exploration. We started with our after-school program. We're hoping to build off of that and coming more fully into our day program. We have also have an expansion of co-curricular and experiential learning, field trips. We've been trying to prepare a field trip here for the after-school program alone for the last couple of months, but we finally landed on one in March to California Science Center. So we're really looking forward to that. Goal 3, creating a welcoming and safe learning environment. School counselor, I really put her first. This is Mariela Inda, Miss Mariela Inda. She's been phenomenal for us, a great fit for us, has already connected really well. In fact, her introduction to kids was I mean, she met with every single kid at the beginning of the year just to connect so that they knew who she was. And we're now at a point where she's running these social skills groups, connecting with kids throughout the year, partnering around Kindness Week. The list goes on and on of things that she has done. Not to mention being a contributor to attendance meetings, 504 meetings, special education meetings. The list goes on there as well. And partnering with our psychologist and counselor to just make sure that we're being very continuous with our support. So I think she's been a phenomenal addition. Increasingly, we want to make sure that she has a more active role in terms of the academic program and that transition for families and for students into high school and beyond. We continue to contract with VCOE for 20 hours weekly. That has been phenomenal, a phenomenal support for our students, and continue to have a psychologist 80% that, by the way, is also running social skills groups in TK1, 2, and pushing into classrooms, supporting teachers in the implementation of those actions and moves to ensure good routines and good development at the classroom level. One other note about Ms. Inda, as our school counselor, she has a set of appointments where she's co-taught or led lessons around social emotional learning through our second step adoption. And I think that has been a phenomenal way of supporting teachers to launch or relaunch that implementation. And then, as you noticed there, second step is something that is really our foundation. We want to make sure that we are speaking a common language, teaching kids how to be kind, not just to be kind, how to resolve conflicts, not just that they should, but really making this a teaching experience. And then lastly, fostering a culture of professional growth and learning. Again, I would point to our AVID implementation. That has really taken off. And that year 0 in grade 4, a continued partnership with Learner-Centered Innovation. We're trying to finalize this MESA scorecard, but since the start of the year, time has really been challenging to find. Been a lot of things happening, and well, we're going to try to get that nailed down soon. And then continuing with our CHAMPS training, which has actually evolved into a multi-tier menu of supports through a small steering committee. Very thankful to that group of people who has laid out some menus of what should be happening from the classroom to school-wide for different behaviors and different responses that we see in our students. So it's a way of clarifying each one of our roles so that we can be more successful with our students. In terms of some data sets, I wanted to just share these metrics that we've been tracking for a while. What you see here in this one pager is an at a glance. And I want to highlight a couple of things. Obviously, our attendance data, those are pieces of information that, continue to be very challenging, but we're putting in a lot of effort. I want to highlight our after-school program. Almost 100 students that are participating and are here consistently after school. That's a significant amount of our students that are here counting on us after school hours. I also want to point to the counseling data that I think is really representative of the kind of support that we're offering students wherever they may be in terms of their needs. And then our discipline referrals. One discipline referral is one too many. One suspension is one too many. But what I can tell you in looking at this data relative to this time of year last year is that our suspensions have been dramatically reduced. And that's not an artificial reduction. That's really through hard work and effort in trying to establish a good environment that is proactive around supervision, proactive around intervention, proactive around educating students and communicating with families. So we are certainly optimistic that the rest of the year will trend in that same direction, but we're continuing to stay very, very vigilant. And then you can see there the positive referrals. And those are things where we're just trying to catch kids doing well at all stages, from our classified staff to our classroom teachers, counselors, and so on. We just want to highlight, and Ms. Kuklinski has been just like clockwork in recognizing, putting those kids out in social media if that's permissible, and really sharing with the broader community the great things that our kids are doing. And in every one of those little certificates that kids get, there's an explanation by the adult of what they're doing or how they're contributing that I think for them and for their families is a good way of saying, here's an acknowledgement that you were really trying to do the right thing at that moment in time. Anyway, I just think that that's the culture of positivity that we're really trying to establish and not just establish, but continue to foster. LCAP metrics, the next one up. This is our STAR. This is based on STAR reporting. What I can tell you is that at this point in the year, winter 2024, even though we're not where we would love to be, we want to have hundreds. We want to have hundreds across the board. That's really our end goal. But what I can tell you is that what I can say to the board is that these numbers are trending in the right direction for where we are in this moment in time and where we are from last year to this year. We have seen growth 6, 8, 10% from last year, grade to grade. And this is a trend line that I would like to see us continue as we head into the back half of the year. Certainly not where we want to be again, but it is a lot of effort that has gone into trying to support students in their reading, in their comprehension, in their writing. And so I'm very optimistic that we can continue to gain even more ground as the year ends. Math continues to be a struggle for us. The numbers are trending better in the lower grades. But we are seeing, because math builds on itself over time, it's become a challenge. It is an entrenched roadblock, to how we see success. And we see a lot of our students in very different orders. I think there are some bigger things to definitely consider in terms of curricular adoption, in terms of just our practices around mathematics that we're going to have to take a look at now and into the future. So I know that we're putting in every effort. I know that we're trying to be very consistent. And I know that every single grade is prioritized math. It's not for a lack of interest, trying, or effort, or even resources, but it is, I'm afraid to say, a challenging problem that we will continue to have to chip away at bit by bit and over time. Our performance is trending, in some cases, it's just flat, or it's trending in a way that we don't want to see. And that is something that we're continuing to take a hard look at. We have meetings every Wednesday, one shape or form or fashion. And this is something that we're going to continue to delve into. I think we have to start taking another close look at curricular adoptions and whether our instructional materials are matching the rigors of the standards and of the assessments that our kids ultimately see. But that's just one component of many that I think I've been grappling with personally. And then lastly, attendance obviously is a big indicator. We've discussed that briefly previously, but just wanted to represent that here as well. So with that said, I'll go ahead and conclude my mid-year report and open it to any board questions.
Questions or comments?
Oh, sure. The percentages, I guess, for ELA and math definitely were, eye-opening. It's a mid-year report, so it's also just work in progress, right? But I think what it's also showing us is that we did kind of double down on ELA for our younger grades in the past recent years, and I think it's working, right? We double down and then they're advancing through, and we want to catch up with our middle schoolers, especially before they leave us. We want to catch up. But what the new things that we are trying and implementing are working. So I think that now it's time to really make sure that we have that same energy towards math. I'm preferential to it anyways because I like it. But I think a lot of kids, and especially because I have junior hires, are scared of it for some very unknown reason. And so, to break it down into ways that are more fun. So, I realize that we're talking to older kids here instead of younger ones, but there's still ways that I think math can be really fun. Totally biased, but if it's not fun, it's hard to be invested, and we can't give up on our older kids thinking that they don't want to have fun, that they got to memorize certain things. But I think that's something that hopefully now we can start to really put our efforts to, because we've put that work in for ELA and we're seeing progress, which is great. But now we really got to make sure that math, we're not leaving the kids behind. A lot of jobs in this world require math. I mean, ELA we use all the time also. But if you want a job, if you want to go on to higher education, you really have to get this under control, I think. And so I think that needs to be a next priority, as well as, and looking at the numbers and kind of seeing and knowing kids around campus. I mean, I sadly think they're true. Sometimes you see numbers and you go, oh, I don't know, maybe it's just a bad test day. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But I feel like this is representing our school right now, which is why I also think emphasis is needed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there is a close parallel between how I'm going to just say that across the board. I do believe that it is a data point. I'd be the first one to argue that it is a single point of measure. That said, it's an important one, because I think it does represent what I tend to see more broadly. The other thing that I'll tell you, and I'm glad you mentioned it this way, efforts need to be coordinated, strategic, and built over time. I know that we want to see the immediacy because every one of us feels a sense of urgency. There's a real child, a real person in a real desk, in a real day, in a real year. All of that is real. What I will tell you, though, is that I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we have come together this way and that we're seeing literacy, not for literacy's sake, but because literacy cuts across content. Literacy is the foundation, and being learned is based on being literate at a high level. Within that learning and within that literacy is also a strong emphasis on writing. And writing cuts across all disciplines, as we well know. It's also important to communication. Mathematics, science, but let's just talk about mathematics. The challenge is that it's a discipline unto itself. And many of those mathematical concepts, reasoning, and fluency build on each other. And we do see the stumbling blocks of fractions and multiplication and division, as we've seen for so long. So how we tackle that problem, just to create fluent thinkers around mathematics that then allow them to have some fun when it comes to how they play with numbers, how they play with concepts. That's what we want to get to. And that's what brought me to highlight the fact that our curriculum is limited, to be quite honest with you. That's no fault of anybody's. It's just where we're at. So we're going to have to do a little more delving on that. But I can represent to the board that it's no lack of trying on our part, on the staff's part, teachers' part. But it is a stubborn problem. And unfortunately, because it does build, we're in a challenging situation because some foundations have not been established.
If I could comment on this a little bit. Number one, when I went to the junior high event and then I talked to those people that were involved with specifically mathematics, I found out that basically as they come into junior high, they're ill prepared. They don't have math facts down like they should. And therefore, there's a lot of remediation before they can begin to move forward. And so the observation is that this is a discipline, as you were just saying, starts at kindergarten and goes all the way through 8th grade. That it's got to be there and that math facts are there because they're going to be known and required. How do you make math fun? That's the important thing. And math doesn't become important until they can see how math is used. And that's where people need to be able to apply math beyond just the classroom. You know, it's one thing to be able to just make these equations and make them sing and dance in one way, but it's quite another to say, well, fraction is important because if I'm the contractor, I need to put 5 3/4 inches along with 2 + 7/8, you know, in order to, you know, give the width of what's going on. Now all of a sudden adding fractions is so important. It's so critical. It's something that they use on a daily basis. But if you were to talk to a contractor, say, you use math every day, they'd probably say no, but they're using it every single day because they got to say, I've got something that's this long, plus I've got to add for 5/16, you know, for drywall and so much for this. And it's used all the time everywhere and they don't see it. The last thing I was going to comment on with regards to this is that over the years that I've been here, I see that we have a focus on math and our math scores go up, and then but our ELA scores go down. And so we put emphasis on ELA and it starts to go up and math goes down. And so we got to figure out how to say we keep them both going up, trending at the same time, that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. It's not just we're throwing all our eggs into one basket and we're doing math now, and now we're going to, because ELA is doing good, now let's go do math. But we got to keep spinning the plate for ELA and keep that spinning. And while that's spinning, now we're going to come over here and spin the plate that has math on it. We've got to figure out how to do that. So it's a tough juggling experience, but that's what's got to happen. That's been my observation over the last many years.
The only comment that I'll make on that front is this. We've been really emphasizing practices, things, approaches, ways of doing things that cut across content. So I'll mention, for example, the note-taking. The note-taking can be done in every content area because it's a way of synthesizing the most salient information. It's a way of reflecting. It's a way of knowing how to study and what to study. And it's a way of understanding what the most meaningful concepts might be, regardless of the subject area. So I agree with you. We don't want to emphasize one thing by neglecting the other. And I don't think that that's what we're at least intentionally trying to do. What I can tell you is that our focus on practices, I think, is what's the most, maybe what differentiates us right now compared to what maybe some of the things have been tried in the recent past. And to that end, once we get really solid on those practices and see them build consistently from one year to the other, that's the one thing that has been the undertone of the conversations with teachers. They're so enthusiastic about receiving kids who've got exposure and knowledge and expertise in these practices next year. So they're going to be receiving kids that already have awareness of how to organize themselves, of how to be able to engage with learning in a different way. And they're really, really excited to see that growth happen and accelerate. So your point is a good one, and it's a valid one, and it's one that we want to acknowledge and understand does happen, but we're trying to really cut across to focus on things that matter and that kids can apply in different areas.
Well, I'm gonna just throw one more plug in. You talked a lot about like community partnerships. And so one thing I didn't see on that I hope we're still considering is our local ag partnerships. And so I just want to throw that out there because it's not mentioned in this slide deck, but I also know that there's so many things the school does that is not mentioned in the slide deck. So I just wanted to put a plug in there.
Yeah, it's right there next year, and I'll tell you why. In large part because we just have to get our well situation. Once we get our well really fully situated, now I think we can go out to the community in a more meaningful way and invite them in. We've got people who are interested. I've shared that before, but I want to just take care of that facilities issue, get ourselves the right access to the resources, water that we're going to need in order to really start to see not just a space, but what can come of the space. Really good. So I'm excited. We've nibbled around the edges on it a little bit, but I want to see us focus on the well, get that up and running in order to really allow us to create some partnerships that I think there's some local, even here in the Rio School District, some local examples that we can turn to. And I've been keeping a close eye over the development that they have over there next to Rio de Valle. And it's exciting. I think it's exciting work. And Rio Mesa is another. Even Cam High has their components of ag. My point is that it's just an infrastructure issue right now that I want to take care of so that we can really go out to our partners and say, here's, and even to the board that has a lot of interest individually and collectively. So I just want to take care of that meaningful piece, and because I think that will allow us to move more swiftly. Little bit, yeah. Plans require that.
All right, anything else? All right. Item next, we have a presentation regarding the public agency retirement services.
So as we are getting our speakers set up here as panelists, I just wanted to just thank the board for the willingness to be able to consider something that's a little bit outside the box, an opportunity to hear about how we might be able to complement the things that we're already doing as a staff and for our district, for our employees. And what you'll be hearing from our PARS partners is information that will provide the board hopefully enough information to be able to move ahead and really examine the possibilities of this supplemental program that can be very beneficial to our employees, but also to our district as we move ahead this year and next primarily. So with that, we have Ms. Jennifer Mesa who is with us. And Jennifer, do we have anybody else? I thought I maybe saw your
Yes.
partner then.
Juan Jimena as well from PARS.
Okay, all right. So we'll want to make sure that he's available. Give us just a second. Okay, Juan Jimena is on as well. So we're going to go ahead and turn it to them to lead the presentation.
Thank you. And you'll be sharing my presentation on the screen? Perfect. And I'll guide you through the process and what slide I'm on as well. All right. Well, good evening, board president and members of the board. My name is Jennifer Mesa once again, and I'm here as well joined by Juan Jimena from PARS. I am pleased to present to you today a potential incentive program for your district for your certificated non-management employee group. If we go to slide number 1. Thank you. To start, I'm from a company called PARS. Our company has been in business for 40 years. We specialize in providing early retirement incentive plans for school districts. We have done more than 1,000 early retirement incentive plans for over 300 school districts. We did one for your district actually in 2008. We have retired over tens of thousands of employees over the last 40 years of our history. We also provide all of our administrative services out of our headquarters in Orange County, California. If we go to the next slide. On this slide, we provided a list of school districts in your surrounding area that have worked with us on these incentive plans. This is just a handful of the districts that we have worked with in California. We did, as I mentioned, we did provide this service as well back in 2008 to your district. If we go to the next slide, slide number 3. This slide will describe how an early retirement incentive program works. The incentive program is a one-time financial incentive that you provide to your employees to retire just a little bit earlier than they otherwise would have. The replacement of the higher paid employees with lower paid employees, or even non-replacement of those employees, is what possibly could generate savings to the district. On slide number 4, here we see how the process works. Your district would open about a 45 to 60 day exploratory evaluation period for your employees to decide if they want to take advantage of the retirement incentive or if they decide not to take it. By adopting the resolution tonight that's there before you, that does not guarantee that the program is going to go into effect. It just simply means you're going to offer this contingent program where the district will be able to evaluate whether or not the incentive program makes fiscal and operational sense for the district. At the close of the enrollment period, if anyone wants to enroll into the program, they will have to submit an irrevocable letter of resignation. Based on the number of letters of resignations that we receive, an analysis will be conducted to determine whether or not there are financial savings that resulted by offering this program. If the plan does work, the board can agree to move forward with the program. And if the plan doesn't work, the board can also ultimately cancel the program as well. If we go to slide number 5, the offer that's going to be presented to your certificated non-management employees is a contribution that is called 100% of final pay. So what this means is that you will take 100% of the employee's salary that would be contributed as an amount from the district to the early retirement incentive program to incentivize an employee. Our program does nothing to impact the employee's CalSTRS benefit. They get exactly what is owed to them. The program is simply an additional benefit that is provided above and beyond their normal pension system. The plan would be funded over a 5-year time frame. So the district wouldn't fund the plan in year 1. You can spread the cost over a 5-year period. With the plan, the district is purchasing a tax-qualified annuity on behalf of each participating employee. So this is different than giving an employee cash directly. They are getting a tax-qualified program, so there are certain tax advantages that the employee can benefit from. The actual annuity would be purchased from a company called Pacific Life Insurance Company, which is a well-known and highly rated company also based in California. If we go to slide number 6. With the annuity purchase, each employee would have the ability to select from 14 different annuity payout options as part of the incentive offer. The benefit of this allows each employee to decide how they would like to take that disbursement out through a tax qualified annuity. They could select a variety of different options, could be paid over the lifetime or to the lifetime of themselves and a beneficiary, or they also have 11 different fixed term payout options that allow the employee to receive money over a shorter guaranteed time frame. Ultimately, the employee can choose how they would like to take the benefit. On this slide that you see here before you, we have gone ahead and illustrated what an example of a benefit would be for an employee on a monthly basis, depending on the option that they select. Again, ultimately, it is up to each employee to select the option that they would like. If we go to the next slide. With respect to the program and how it's going to be designed, the current established parameters will be for certificated non-management employees who are at least 55 years of age with at least 20 years of district service. And they do have to resign from the district on or before June 30th, 2024. When we calculate the projected savings, these are generally the employees at the top of the salary scale. The goal would be to replace these employees with potentially employees in a lower salary scale, which would hopefully create some salary differential savings for your district. Right now, we show that the average replacement employee is brought on or at around $70,000, which is equivalent to some recent trends that the district has used to hire new staff. On slide 8, there are 5 eligible employees based on this design of the program. We see the distribution of these employees based on their age, with the average age at 62.5. Once again, they do require a 55 years of age in order to be eligible for the program. If we go to slide 9 or the next slide, here we see the distribution of the eligible employees based on their years of service. Again, 20 years of service is required in order to be eligible for the incentive program. If we go to the next slide, we run an extensive calculation that tries to determine how much savings you may receive from providing this program. The numbers you see here are purely estimates at this point. The actual numbers you will actually see at the end of the enrollment period when we know exactly who will take the advantage of the incentive program. And those numbers at that point in time will be able to provide additional information to you. We do calculate the savings and we do take a variety of different things into factor, such as replacement compensation differential between the outgoing and incoming employees. We also have to take into account the differential or the difference in costs associated with an incentive program. For example, the cost of the 100% incentive and also any retiree healthcare costs that the district may offer. In the case that your district may not replace certain positions, there may be additional savings that can be generated as a result of that. So among the 5 eligible employees, PARS's projections on how many people will take the program is about 2, which is 40% of your eligible group. On this slide, we see what we think might happen if 2 employees take the plan. And what we are trying to do is project the savings over a 5-year time frame. And what we are showing you is a potential scenario if 2 employees left and you replace 2 employees. If 2 employees left and you only replaced 1 employee, or if 2 employees left and you don't replace any employees. So you can see if you have 2 employees that leave and you do replace those 2 employees on there, the 5-year projected savings is approximately $183,000. Now, if you are able to not replace just 1 position, the savings increase drastically to over $747,000 in 5 years. And you can even see potential savings of over $1 million if you chose not to replace just those 2 positions. So the benefit of analyzing this once again for everyone is to take advantage of the program on there as well. All right, if we go to the next slide. All right. So here is a potential timeline. There is a 49-day period for employees to determine if they want to take advantage of the plan. If the board adopts the resolution tonight, the enrollment period would start today. During that 49-day period, PARS would communicate with those 5 employees about the plan, send out enrollment packets as well. We would host an orientation meeting to review the incentive plan with your employees. We have a toll-free number for employees to call. In the meantime, ask questions and have individualized service. The window to make a decision and all resignation letters would have to be submitted to PARS by the close of business day on the evening of April 9th. Our team would then provide the district with the final numbers of those potential savings. That's where we would be able to determine who left or decided to resign. We would be able to determine if you have availability not to have to replace anybody, and provide you with a better view of the financial savings for the district at that point in time. So on the April 16th board meeting, the board would receive the final analysis, and then the board would make the decision whether to move forward with the plan or cancel the program. Assuming that the plan does go forward, employees would resign no later than June 30th, 2024, at the end of the school year after completing the 2023-2024 school year. Then their first PARS payment would begin on August 1st, 2024, and then we would go from there with their servicing. So with that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that the board may have.
I'll start with a question.
Go ahead.
If an employee submits their letter of resignation to you, but maybe we don't get enough participation, so we decide not to move forward, will that letter of resignation remain, or can they withdraw it?
That can be rescinded at that time.
That would be a unique thing. Like even tonight, there's a option to either accept or reject, I guess, a board resignation. I mean, a employee resignation. And that would be where we always accept them. It's like, what else can we do? But this would be one of those cases where we'd actually let it go. My other question with regards to that, it also sounds like we'll know in advance, and actually in April, whether or not they even need to make that board resignation or the employee resignation letter. Is that correct?
So they will have a deadline on when they have to submit that resignation letter. That would allow PARS and our team to go ahead and do the final, or what we call the post analysis, to determine if there's any fiscal and operational, or if it meets the fiscal and operational objectives of the district. And then on your board meeting, you would decide whether it moves forward or not. If it does not move forward, those letters of resignation are rescinded. But we do need them to submit it just so that we get a sense of who is planning to move forward with the plan and who is not planning to move forward, so that we can analyze if there are savings to the district.
Right. So the flip side of that is if we move forward, then they must resign. They can't.
Correct.
But if we don't go forward with the program, then that letter's rescinded. And I was just kind of reading the proposal here, the cost to the district, if no one signs up for this and we go through all this, so we're at minimum 3,500. And then there's a percentage of premiums made. Is that percentage of premiums taken into your cost saving analysis, or will that be considered in that also, so we see what the total net is there?
Correct. All of the savings that you're seeing are net of everything, all of the cost to provide the program, the cost of providing healthcare, and so forth. So those are the net numbers that you see on there.
Okay, thank you. It's a
You're
new
welcome.
term, net.
Sometimes I make up things just to make you all laugh. You got to keep it interesting sometimes.
I think I made it first, so thank you.
Any other questions or concerns, comments? I don't see anything else, Jennifer. And so I think with that, well, thank you for your time.
Perfect. Thank you
Um,
for your time as well.
And likewise, it's not for any employees that may be listening into this, either present or online. Um, no decisions has to be made tonight, and you'll be reaching out to each one of them individually and providing them the same information that we just received and discussing it one-on-one with them. Is that correct?
Correct. We'll be providing a presentation for those eligible.
Okay. Anything else? With that, well, thank you, and then we're going to move on with our agenda. Next item on the agenda is item 12A, consideration of approval of the Public Agency Retirement Services resolution number 23-24-07 board resolutions. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adopting resolution 23-24-07, approving the Public Agency Retirement Services, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 in favor. Item B, consideration of approval of the Administrative Services Agreement with PARS. Do I have a motion for that?
So move.
I'll second it.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion on the service agreement with PARS?
No, this is all the cost we just discussed. That's all the percentages in our question and answer period. So
Anything else? Hearing nothing, all those in favor of approving the Administrative Services Agreement with PARS, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 in favor. Item C, consideration of acceptance of the certification of the 2022-2023 annual report of audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Only that the report came back and it was in positive findings and they found no irregularities.
So everything's good? Nothing's out of the ordinary, no flags. All those in favor of accepting the certification of the 2022-2023 annual report of audited financial statements and supplementary information for the year ending June 30th, 2023, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 in favor. Item D, consideration of approval of the 2023-2024 transportation plan. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2023-2024 transportation.
Second.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion with regards to the transportation plan for
Yeah, Board
2023-2024?
Board President Sullivan, my just a clarification that this is the second year that this plan is coming before the board. The first year was last year, and so it is a statutory requirement. So I may have may not have been thorough in that in my summary.
Okay,
There were no significant differences between the two.
so it's a required thing that we must do, and we always have these housekeeping things, and towards the end of the year, we have lots of them. It always happens. Right. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the 2023-2024 transportation plan, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 in favor. Consideration of approval of the resolution 23-24-08, authorizing emergency contracting for the completion of the well improvements at the Mesa Union School District pursuant to the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. Do I have a motion?
It's a new,
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? This is basically a continuation of what we've already done. So if an opportunity arises, it authorizes you to have the ability to go ahead and snag it, and we can still ratify and move forward.
That is correct.
Is there a reason why it has to be a different resolution number every board meeting, or is that just something like the text remains the same? It's just the resolution number.
It's a new resolution and acknowledgement that it is a continuation.
I was trying to figure out the difference between the resolution ending 06 and this one ending 08, and it was like, well, what's the difference?
Yeah, it's
Is it
only
the
it's only
30?
an acknowledgement that it is a new resolution extending the timeline.
All those in favor of adopting resolution 23-24-08, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 in favor. Item F, consideration of approval of the 4th grade field trip request to Olivas Adobe. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the 4th grade field trip to Olivas Adobe.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
What's the funding source?
Who's funding
I
it?
didn't see who was funding it in the permission slip.
So this one is a grade level. It is supported by our PFL.
Anything else? PFO. Any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the 4th grade field trip to Olivas Adobe, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. The motion carries 4-0 in favor. Item G, consideration of approval of the STEAM field trip request to California Science Center. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this field trip?
Just a clarification on this one, because it's our after-school program, will be funded by our ELOP program, ELOP allocation.
Okay, so there's a separate fund for that. Any further discussion?
How many kids are we expecting to go?
I'll have to double check, but I want to say that that this is going to be an invitation to grades 3 and up, 3 through 8.
I'm just wondering if the bus not full, will we open it up to others?
Yes, we tend to do that. We give priority to our after-school program, and then depending on the RSVPs, ideally we give opportunities for more kids to participate.
Anything further? All those in favor of approving the STEAM field trip to the California Science Center, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 4-0 in favor. Item H, consideration of the adoption of the December 2023 board policy revisions.
I move to adopt the December 2023 board policy revisions.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on these policies?
Just that the policies are basically just straight out of the code. There's nothing where we had to choose an option. So it's just incorporating these new policies into the way we function.
Anything further? Not hearing anything. All those in favor of adopting the December 2023 board policy revision, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 4-0 in favor. 13A. Consideration of accepting the resignation of Leticia Cusino. Did I say that wrong? Cusino, sorry. As a school administrative assistant effective March 22, 2024. Do I have a motion? Second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Sullivan, just an acknowledgement of Leticia as a phenomenal member of our community, a parent. She's been a family liaison. She's been a health tech, and then most recently in this role, she's just been fantastic. Has been a phenomenal face of the district of Mesa. I think she honestly embodies really the best of Mesa. Just solid, community-oriented, helpful team. It's incredible, and very, very upset at BSA. As you can imagine, Tammy and I are barely on speaking terms at this point.
And if we refuse this,
Well, there's just will involved in this. But I mean, in all kidding aside, I think you know, I make it a point to tell my employees that I care about their growth, about their development, and ideally, we would love to have it be here at Mesa. But in the event that it's not, I will personally support them in whatever their endeavors happen to be. And in this instance, she will just be supporting us from a different role. And so, anyway, very, very grateful. We've already flown the position internally. There was some interest internally. I should be able to give you more information in the coming week or two. And certainly in advance of the March meeting, we've been really figuring out how to make those positions fit, or that position fit. And so looking forward to finding a good replacement that will keep us moving ahead.
thank you very much, Dr. Ramirez. Tammy, did you want to add anything to that?
Of course they are. How could they not?
Thank you very much, both of you. Anything further? All those in favor of accepting the resignation of Leticia, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries 4-0 in favor. Items for future consideration is the LCAP. And our next meeting is on March 11th, which is a Monday. Okay, March 11th. With that, the meeting is adjourned at 8 o'clock.